True. Yeah.
Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Are we live?
Yep.
All right. Yes, no, yes.
Waiting on YouTube.
Oh, waiting on YouTube.
Verify. Gotta make sure. Can't assume anything with technology these days. Yep, we're good to go.
All right, welcome to SEO Fight Club with Ted and Kyle and Clint. I am the Kyle of those three. Thank you for having us. I'm driving the slides today, and that's why I'm doing the intro. Episode 37, we're going to talk about some mobile first considerations and Google's CTR update. A little housekeeping. Join us on internetmarketing.gold. It's free to join. It's a platform we're putting together. We're trying to make a community for everyone here to participate in, where you can just get answers, really. You know, a place where you can go and get some questions answered, and slowly but surely features are rolling out, and we're hoping faster than slowly but surely coming up by the end of the year. But yeah, check it out. It's free. Really, it's just a community to plug into is really the whole goal there. We're trying to get away from Skype. The Skype group is still there. We haven't killed it yet, but I don't recommend getting on that if you can get into IMG. I think overall it'll be a better experience.
I think it's time to kill it.
Kill Skype or kill IMG.
They'll never move over to IMG as long as you got YouTube or in Skype.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. But I mean, the thing is, because of some of the features that we've got with chat that aren't working, we feel bad about killing it now. So
yeah, screw them.
Yeah. Actually, so for those that have participated, so a lot of people have been very communicative and participating in some surveys that we've done. So what I think we're going to do is we're going to trim down the rooms, the chat rooms, and create kind of like a forum style, so that way you can post a question and get an answer, or there's still the opportunity, like if you need to chat now about something, that'll be there for you as well. So we might have like maybe 2 rooms for quick discussion, or just sometimes you just want to shoot the breeze. But then also an opportunity to have archivable questions and answers. I think that's the direction that we're going to go on to, and that comes from the people that are participating. That's what they would like, and so that's what we want to build. All right, my on-page course. We did 3 weeks ago. I think we did a 72-hour launch. A bunch of people didn't get in on that 72 hours, and last week we announced that we would do 24 hours today. As we're doing it at the pre-launch price with all the pre-launch package goodies for 24 hours. That starts at 11 a.m. So it's open right now. It's going to go for another 24 hours. You can use the bit.ly/onpage-with-Kyle, or if you're adventurous, you can try the whole thing. There it is for you, but that's the page that you'll go to. Check it out. So the course is for the pre-launch price, just for 24 hours. It's the $379 price, or if you want to get on some of the packages to get like the IMG stickers, the Fight Club t-shirt, if you want to hijack Ted's green screen once that comes back up, that's an option. But check those out. So open for 24 hours. Right now there are 3 modules in. The 4th module is going in this week and should be done by Friday. Right now there are, I think, 84 videos in, and it's 5 hours, 45 minutes of lesson time. So there's a lot in there already, and more going in. I think for a course, that's a lot of content. There's a lot there. And Clint and Ted, as we were talking about before, the videos are edited to remove space and ums and my stuttering. So as a result, I think it was maybe closer to 7 hours of actual video time that have been compressed. And it almost sounds like it's on 1.5. Clint, you watch courses constantly. You have to do them all at like 1.5, right?
You do, especially, and there's some instructors you got to do it like at 2, or else they'll put you to sleep. So yeah, but if they're already naturally 1.5, that actually works a little better. I think the brain just kind of absorbs it faster when it's given that information in a steady beat.
Yeah, I totally agree. You still might need to do it at 1.5, but at least it's a little bit faster than my normal. So bit.ly/onpage with Kyle if you guys want to check that out. SEO this week, a show by our very own Clint, where Clint goes through all the headlines and gives you some of the best, and with some discussion as well. Clint, what was on tap this week?
This week I actually highlighted a member of the SEO Signals Lab, Pablo. He's got some great tools. I did it on purpose. He's got some great tools that will help you leverage the Google Chrome developers section inside your browsers to, just get some more things. And, like, for example, you can go to a website, push this little button, and it'll give you all of the JSON schema formatted properly, so you can copy that and leverage it however you want to. That's one of the tools. And then we look at 2 blog posts that are claiming to use 5.9 and 6.6 million data points to test the Medic update in September and page speed optimization and how that affects rankings. We had an interesting discussion with Ted about this.
Right on, right on. Clint, I've noticed when you're not facing your microphone, it does get a little quiet, just FYI.
Yeah, that's because I don't want to do it.
All right, so we're going to start with some mobile indexing considerations. So mobile first indexing, Google announced, and if you have Search Console up, you've probably received a notice by now that Google is indexing the mobile version of your site. That's what mobile first indexing is. So Google is no longer indexing the desktop version, but will render the mobile version for what it's using for ranking purposes. And so one of the things you want to look at is you want to make sure that the version that you are editing, which is more often than not the desktop version, is the same version that Google is editing. And then we're going to talk about some considerations and how to check that, maybe what you can do with it. A big shout out to Maria Dubretich. She is the CTO of High Voltage SEO, the agency that I co-founded. She's also one of the co-founders of Page Optimizer Pro. She wrote the original script based on some of the math that I put together. And she's been one of the people kind of behind the scenes that's really driving the technology development of Page Optimizer Pro. She's incredibly smart. She only speaks, I think, 3 languages. She did her master's in finance in Italian. Nothing that I've ever done with her is in Italian. So she's just an immensely smart person, very talented. And this was her concept. She came up with this and figured this out. So I want to let people know this isn't me. This isn't me.
So she's the nerd behind the nerd.
Yeah, actually, most of the stuff isn't me. People don't realize that. Most of the stuff is her. If you look in Search Console and you compare devices, so you compare your mobile versus desktop, and I highly recommend that you do this, you might see some interesting things pop out. And in particular, if you look at this one, total clicks and impressions, desktop versus mobile are significantly different. When you're looking at those kind of numbers, and you realize, like, wow, maybe we really need to make sure our mobile site is up to date, and how it looks. Are you checking those things? Because most people, when they edit, especially small businesses, they just look at the WordPress that they've got on their laptop and then run with it. But are you sure that you're showing people the same mobile version? Is your mobile experience a good experience? Then with Google saying that they're doing mobile first indexing, this becomes more important. This is something you should be monitoring, you should be looking at. Another thing would be goal completions. Are these goal completions the same? Are so many people coming to your site, but they're not converting on mobile for some particular reason? And it could be that maybe people don't like to convert on mobile, or it could be there's something wrong with your site. But again, these turn into huge factors that you should be looking at on your site rather than just checking out more than one version. So Maria wanted to look at the difference between mobile and desktop, and she used roma.republica.it. It's a news site. And she chose this because the desktop version and the mobile version look different. When you look at them, you can see that they're 2 different versions. So I'm looking at the source code. And if you're not sure how to find source code, you just click anywhere on a page and then you click view source. That's not in Safari, though. I don't think you can do that in Safari. So use Chrome or Firefox. And then for here, she just looked at the word Roma. And Roma is mentioned 1,382 times within the source code. And this is the desktop source code. You can then go into the mobile-friendly test, and this is a brand new thing. Within the mobile-friendly test, you can click on the rendered page and look at the HTML. So Google will show you the source code that it is actually rendering and using for mobile-first indexing. So this is the homepage again for the news site. You click HTML, and then you get the source code from Google. Essentially, this is what it actually is being indexed versus whatever you had on the desktop site. she then copied and pasted this into a document and then did Control F for Roma, and that's only mentioned 123 times versus the 1382 that's in the desktop version. So you can see some implications there that what Google is using for indexing might be quite different than what you think you are actually optimizing. I mean, that's substantial. So if Roma is a target term for you or part of a variation, you might be thinking you got it this many times when really you only have it that many times. And that can really change your optimization and how you're looking at things.
So another consideration on that is the keyword density, because oftentimes the mobile sites will have less word count too. So you'd probably want to look at that to see how they compare.
For sure. It's quite possible that what you think you have edited perfectly and optimized perfectly is nowhere near what actually Google is really using.
Do you know if this site, does it have a completely different mobile version or is it a responsive website?
It looks responsive. Like it doesn't do a little at. I was looking at it just before the show. The URL looks exactly the same. It's just showing it clearly looks different though, in that they've trimmed down on the mobile version, like the nav bar area, what you can click on, and how things look on the page. Okay. So in Quora, something you can do is you can run things twice. So Quora gives you the option of mobile versus desktop. And Ted, correct me if I'm wrong on this. But you can run it twice. So you can run things once with mobile, run things once with desktop, and then you can use the Quora diff tool to see differences. So you can see if there's some optimization differences between the desktop version of your site and the mobile version. You can also do this by hand, because you could just simply grab the values from each of those and then put them through a comparison in Excel. And you can see if the desktop and mobile versions of your site are significantly different and where they might be different. In Pop, you can also do the same thing. You can run it 2 times. So run it regular. On the second time, you can then grab the source code from the mobile friendly tool, and Pop allows you to copy and paste it in. And then within Pop, you can compare page runs against each other. So you can see if there are differences there on your currents. So the current column that shows what you've got for the different elements, you can look at what's in the desktop version and then what was in that pasted in mobile version, and then compare those against each other. You can also then see what the deficits might be. Yeah.
Is that comparing the desktop version of your top 10 competitors with your mobile version?
You can do both, because you can put in the all the source codes for all of them.
Okay.
So you could, so it is a little bit manual, because you do have to go grab them and paste them in Pop, but you could compare all of that data. So you can see your page's differences, but you could also see your competitors' differences as well. That's kind of the end of this little prezzo, but I think this might be something you might want to run out and do, because if, especially on the, I'm optimized perfectly and I'm on page 5, well, maybe there's something really there. And it's not that you didn't optimize perfectly, it's that what you have as your mobile version isn't what Google's really using, or what you think is in your desktop isn't what Google is really using.
Yeah, another thing I'd imagine that people overlook when they consider mobile is how much execution time there is with their JavaScript. Because if you think about it, the CPU power of a desktop machine is much greater than what you're probably getting CPU-wise in your mobile phone. And we know on desktop that at 1.6 seconds of CPU seconds, Google stops looking for changes. And so on a cell phone, you probably even have less CPU time for your JavaScript to execute. Yeah. So there may be implications to how much time in the waterfall diagrams you see being spent on JavaScript.
Well, Google's got its PageSpeed tool for mobile, where you can put in, and if you're like above 3 seconds, it tells you you're slow. And I've always thought, go F yourself, 3 seconds. But maybe that's some insight into how much they're actually rendering on the page. To your point, Ted, on you have less time, and they're trying to say that.
Yeah, because they're trying to emulate 20 seconds of render time, but they're doing some server-side shenanigans to pull that off.
That's it for this part of it, and then we're going to switch over to Ted. I don't know if there are any questions, Clint, that would be wise to do now, or we can do them all at the end. That's totally fine.
Well, it's probably best to do now. I covered all of them except for one, and I was dealing with responsive themes. Let's say you have a responsive theme and you do what you said, you pull the HTML and it's showing differently, thus changing your keyword densities. How do you, I know this is like a 1,000-word answer looking in for 50, but how do you recommend going about optimizing now if your keyword densities are changed on the two different versions? Does that make sense? So if I'm pop optimized 100%, but my mobile version's only 50, but I'm using a responsive theme, not a mobile only theme, how do I fix that?
I think the easiest thing would be to get something that allows you to do that. I mean, it's like my thing won't work. You know, then don't. And doctor, it hurts when I move my elbow like this, so don't do that. You know,
I can't wait to my podcasting. Thank you.
You know, like if you're unable,
that's a cop out answer, Kyle.
If you're unable to edit, then you have to find a different way to edit. You know, I mean, literally, if you can't do it, then you've got to change what you're using, right? Am I wrong?
Well, let's say let's go like Mitch is saying, you have AMP and your mobile users are all getting your AMP version. So when you're optimizing with Cora now or Pop, you would essentially ignore all of the HTML functions and go purely with in content.
So right? I haven't looked at AMP at all, but I would throw that into the mobile friendly tool and see what version Google is using, and they might be using AMP. That might not be super great.
Yeah, it might turn out to be easier to manipulate if you're using AMP, because it is essentially a different set of code at that point. So
true. So that's an awesome thing to test and try out.
Cool. And let's see. Yep, that's the last questions on that topic.
Cool. Ted, you ready to rock and roll?
Sure.
Do you want just to do like a ding every time I should change the page?
Do.
Okay.
All right. So a lot of inquiries over the past week about Google's October updates. And, you know, updates are always kind of wishy-washy. Did they happen? Did they not happen? What was changed? Who was affected? And there's not a lot of certainty in the chatter that you hear about updates. This particular update, we have some certainty because we saw the source code of Google search result pages change. So we absolutely know that they did a deployment, and because we could see it, we could witness it with our own eyes. So prior to October 4th, in the search result pages, Google was tracking click-through rate using the ping attributes. So that green part of the first listing there. So I pulled this out of the source code of the search results. And so that ping attribute, what that does is when you click on the link, if the browser supports the ping attribute, it will asynchronously call that ping URL for logging purposes. So you will both visit the href and behind the scenes, you will ping the ping URL at the same time. And so that's what that's doing. And then on October 4th, and for about 4 days following, they replaced that ping attribute with an on mouse down call, which is a JavaScript event looking for your mouse button press. And when you mouse button press on this link, then it calls that JavaScript function. So kind of the same thing, but done in a different way and probably triggered by different human browser events. And one of the other distinctions in that red part where you see the number 13, that was the ranking, and that would increment with each search result. And that doesn't exist in the ping URL. So it kind of looks like they were trying to capture information based on result position, which they don't normally do. And they needed like a 4-day sample of that data. And then on October 8th, we saw them revert back to the ping. So maybe they collected their sample data that they are trying to measure and then reverted. We're not entirely sure why, but this was evidence that Google was doing something in this time frame. And if your rankings were haywire from October 4th to October 8th, keep in mind that they may have actually been stable, but your measuring tools might have been affected by this change. All right, ding. So continuing to evaluate this time frame of last month to this month, we're looking at the shared data from Quora that covers tens of thousands of Quora reports and different keywords that are actively being tuned for by SEOs. And so these are the top correlating factors from that data. And what's interesting about it is, first of all, the importance of the JSON LD entities. And you'll notice that their percentage is really small on the far right. That's because they're not broadly applicable to the keywords. They correlate very strongly when they apply to a keyword, but they don't apply to all keywords. But when they matter, they appear to matter a great deal. So I wanted to point that out, that it looks like it's really important if you're in a niche market that you get that niche JSON LD in place. The second thing is that these are the top factors across thousands of keywords. So they don't move up and down quickly. They move up and down slowly. And when they move 5 or 6 places across thousands of keywords, that's a huge jump. So the 3 or 4 that we see jumping here are pretty significant in that regard, that they jumped across the board for the most part. And so the keywords and the links went up. Keywords and the do follow back, or not keywords, sorry, the number of do follow backlinks went up. And then TF-IDF and search terms and sentences. Those were interesting hits on looking at what's different between last month and this month. Any thoughts or comments on this view?
Those two, the search terms and sentences and TF-IDF, are very closely related, aren't they? Term frequency with the term that you're searching.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go ahead and look at the next slide. All right, so this is a Quora diff for 2 Quora reports on the exact same keyword at 2 different dates, a month apart. And so this is another way that I like to look at an update, is how did it exactly change for my keyword specifically? And from niche to niche, we find that different things can happen for a given update. Not all niches are affected the same way. And so for my keyword specifically, I saw these changes. And so I had a Quora report from before the update, Quora report after the update, and I did that Quora diff that you saw from Kyle's presentation. And these are the movers and shakers from that list. And we see term frequency, we see sentiment, we see a lot of YouTube and video hits. Open graph site name, that was a big one. Keywords and absolute URLs, that was way down for my keyword, but it was up across the board from the other report, the keywords and A tag hrefs. So it's interesting that we got a different result on that, but it was way down for my keyword. So this is another way of looking at it. And then if we go to the next slide, there's one more way we can look at it. We can look at the Quora roadmaps, the advice being given for my specific keyword and my specific website. And we can look at how that advice changed. And we see the term frequency got a lot stronger, which makes me think that all the on-page factors are that much more important. The title having sentiment was way up. So I'd be inclined to act on that if I haven't already. And then there's, this massive movement on keywords and span tags. I'd be probably interested in experimenting with that. But those are a number of different ways that you can kind of evaluate a Google update. And it's probably not the answer that everybody wanted to hear, but the truth is the only way you're going to get the information that's specific for your case is to get measurements for your keywords and your website. So no matter what tools you're using, if you're using Pop or whatnot, you should probably maintain an archive of your measurement data and try to see how things look before and after. And I think that's our show, unless we have questions.
I will very selfishly put the slide back up while we think.
Yeah. So on the course, can you tell people about what's in your table of contents for the course?
Sure. So the beginning of it starts off with some basic concepts in what different types of keywords are. And I define them as a primary, a secondary, and supporting. Your primary and secondaries, especially the most important ones, are often on the page you're trying to target, and your supportings are what are going to make up your silo. And we go into some detail on putting the silo together. From there, we kind of move on to some more advanced concepts on doing a silo within a silo. But then we also so just recently added in was how to find some advanced keyword research on how to find lost keywords. These are keywords that you used to rank for. And I provide a lost keyword sheet. So you can download some data and put into the sheet and it'll help you identify keywords that you used to rank for. And that's some of the, as I mentioned in the course, I think it's really awesome keyword research because Google already associated this term with your site. It just didn't like the page that much. And sometimes you'll find terms that have tons of impressions and all you just need to do is a little bit of optimization and you can win them back. It's instant wins without doing massive SEO campaigns, just simply finding a home for your lost keywords. Also get into some keyword cannibalization and then also provide a keyword cannibalization tool that actually Maria put together to find places where you have words that are, or two pages that are fighting for the same word, and it's harming the impressions and the clicks that you're getting. So again, it's kind of like keyword research in a way of finding a problem with some keywords. But also within the tool, the cannibalization tool, you can actually find other opportunities for words that it's like the best looking word for a page. It's getting the most impressions, but it's not really getting any clicks. So then you can go in and do some work there. Some of the more recent videos that I've done are on, I did a whole thing on owning page one, but from different perspectives, making sure that your brand is protected, but then also techniques on how you can get more real estate on page one, including Ted, your concept on multiple domains. I freely stole that and put it into the course. I give you credit.
That's a great one to steal. I've been trying to tell the community for a while now that multiple domains might in fact be better than the one big authority site, especially in online retail. But I think people need to see more of that to really understand why.
Sure. I've also worked on how long does it take to win a keyword and how you can I show how I do it and then how you can create your own method with any tool that you use that you can benchmark things or kind of a practical way to look at it. And even though it's an on-page course, I do get into some concepts of looking into how to factor in ROI and why that might be beneficial. some CRO, basic CRO, but just some things to kind of help people think about through those ideas. I provide my entire on-page audit, and I walk through the audit, and in the slides, you get access to my explanations. So those are things that go into the audit that I put out through High Voltage. And so for some people that might be really even new to SEO, it might be really beneficial to start with that one or watch that one early on, even though it's in module 3, because it explains a lot about SEO. And for those that are professionals that are doing this and trying to sell these things, maybe to look at how I've organized things might be beneficial to glean stuff out of that to put into your own current audits. So that's all in there as well. There's a lot in there. There's a lot of stuff. I think it's pretty good.
Who is like the ideal person to take this course? Is it open to total novices, or should people have some background in SEO?
Yeah, I don't think you need really any background other than, I mean, if you're watching this course, then you've got a little bit of or watching this YouTube channel. But it does start off with like, what is a keyword? You know, so it starts as basic as I think it can get. And even within those concepts, then it gets, I think, as advanced as you'd want it to be. Getting into a whole other lesson is on backlinking for your on page, specifically how to build backlinks that can then benefit the things that we're teaching. And I think there are a lot of concepts in there that people really like, even if they're really advanced SEOs. I think it'll give them a lot of great concepts. So it can go, like I said, from the most basic to the most advanced. I think it could be a good training tool as well if you have VAs, or you've got a team that you're trying to get up to speed on some SEO concepts. I think it'd also be really great for that as well.
And is it broken up into a table of contents? Can people jump to what they need and skip what they don't?
You can. I try to be pretty descriptive with the titles as well. So on the landing page, the titles in that landing page aren't exactly what's in the course. But what's in the course, you can see it. All of the stuff is there. It's just, it might've been kind of refactored a little bit. But yeah, you can jump through it. You can also hit on autoplay, because I try to keep most of the videos somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 to 3 minutes, 4 minutes, somewhere in there. So that they're digestible, and then you can go in and get that one thing that you need from that particular topic. But you can also just put them on autoplay and go. Like if you're listening to them in the car. I've actually had a lot of people say, like, I'm listening to this in the car. It's like, please tell me you're not watching the slides. Just going with the audio only. But you can put it on autoplay so it'll run, so you don't have to click through either. If you just want to set it and go, that's also an option.
And I hear rumors that there's a chat group for this course. Will people be able to ask you questions about it for the next year?
That's right. Yeah. So there within IMG, there's an on-page channel, and the idea is that you can throw a question in there, and I'll get to it. Usually no more than 24 hours. So like any question, hey Kyle, you said this or that, and actually one of the questions turned into a whole extra lesson that I filmed. And through it, because like, oh, that's a pretty good idea. So if you have thoughts on, if there's a knowledge gap, that's the place to ask. And if it's something that could benefit the entire group, it actually might turn into another video that I'll add.
Excellent. And I heard rumors, and I don't know if they're true. Is Clint Butler working on a course?
I've heard this rumor as well. Is this a true rumor, Clint?
It's a rumor. No confirm nor deny.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, doing a course is not fun. Like, not gonna lie to you, it's not peaches and cream as you're going through it.
Well, tell us a little bit about what it was like making this course.
One of the hardest things, which was really frustrating, was just figuring out the right way to record it. So I have Camtasia as a tool, but then it's like, do you want pictures of me, which some people like, some people don't. But then trying to coordinate that turned into an absolute impossibility for me. To be able to have like a little picture of me as I'm going through it, I couldn't do it. So there's no picture of me on it. I mentioned earlier that we've got a really great editor, and he's taking out the ums and the spaces in between words, which automatically speed things up. That was a real eye opener because of the raw video sending to him, and then what I got back, and the amount of time that it took off, probably a solid hour of ums and uhs, and then I realized that's really probably very annoying when you're watching a course and you hear a lot of ums and uhs. That's got to be the worst. So that was an interesting experience. But then really, this is like writing a book, is what it feels like. I feel like I've written a book because I think I put in somewhere 125, 150 hours probably total into this, which has been just a ton of time because I've been working on it for a very long time. Finally getting it produced, but putting things into a system that that you can track, that seems to make sense, seems to flow. That wasn't easy. Doing the stupid slides was not easy. Clint, your son has done a lot of great work on those slides. Dade's doing a great job with that. That would drive me insane. I've done a lot of work on the slides, and if I had to do that as well, then I think it wouldn't have happened. All that kind of little stuff. And then the marketing team, Andy, who's my business partner with HVSEO, and Vera, who is our head of marketing, like the work that they've done, I haven't touched any of that. And there's no way I would have gotten to any of that. So it's a whole massive process. It sounds so easy. Just do a course. Simple.
Yeah.
There's a lot to it.
Maybe we need a course on how to do an SEO course.
Genius. The marketer's marketing course.
Yeah, let us know in the chat if you want Kyle's course on making an SEO course.
It might start off like how to not do it, and I'll just tell you all the things that did wrong to start.
Awesome. Well, I'm out of questions. Are there any more from chat?
I have got one, and I'm looking probably for your opinion. Mobile first indexing. As I understand it, Google looks at the mobile version, places it in the SERPs where it thinks it belongs, and then it comes back and looks at the desktop version and places it in those SERPs. One, is my understanding correct as you guys know it? And then two, do you optimize mobile first and then go to the desktop, or you flip it the other way around, or how are you handling that?
Well, I think mobile first is kind of a half truth, because when I really analyzed what Google was doing when it organically discovered the new IMG website, was it would check your robots.txt first, because obviously Google wants to comply with those directives. And then what I saw is a couple days later, it hit mobile and desktop at the exact same time. And what was weird was the mobile version of Googlebot was Chrome version 41, and we're like on 72 or something now. So it was a really old Chrome for mobile. And everybody's probably like, well, Google said they were using updated Chrome for Googlebot. Well, it looks like they are for desktop, but it's not updated, at least not in the user agent for mobile. So, this notion of first could be debatable. I think what it's probably going to be is mobile preferred, not really mobile first, but mobile preferred. So if the content is different, there's a preference to go with the mobile version. But they'll probably get crawled desktop and mobile close to the same time.
Do you think the desktop crawling is being used for indexing?
Yeah, I would suspect it is. I think they're probably trying to look at it both ways and see if it's responsive or completely different content, like in the case of MDOT.
Cool.
There's some requests that you put the link inside of the IMG site so people can click on it to buy the course.
Yeah, I'll do it as soon as we get off.
And then there's some crybaby in there called Matt who says it's not working yet. So I told him to shut up and just wait.
It works. I'm on it right now. You're the problem.
About a specific version of iOS, right? Yeah.
And then I guess looks like we got two more questions, one from Leon and then one from Miguel, and then we'll close it up. But Leon's question, I think we covered this a little bit, Ted, in SEO this week. But what are your opinions on, or maybe it was a good opportunity to hear from Kyle on this one, is what are your opinions on using raw versus clean content for the keyword density? I.e.
Oh yeah. So yeah, you've got the raw, clean, and abridged. Are the three types.
The nuts and bolts of that is there's the last time I calculated, there's about 13 million different ways to calculate keyword density. So, for example, one person's calculation might include image alt text, but another person's might not. Some people might include the HTML title, but some people might not. So when you look at all the different ways that you can modify your keyword match count and your total word count based on what you choose to include and exclude, there's a whole lot of variance in what the number could be. And most of the time when people say you should never ever exceed 4% keyword density, it's apples and oranges unless you have a very specific specification to how you calculated that. And so in Cora, I provide probably a really crazy amount of information about keyword density because the past year I wanted to study it a lot. And so there's a whole report dedicated to it. And there's this idea of clean versus raw. And clean is the most exclusive way you could calculate it, and raw is the most inclusive. So for example, on the raw, we include every part of the page. So we include the head block, we include the JavaScripts, we include the style sheets, we include the attribute text, we even include the HTML comments. It's raw, it's the most inclusive way you could count that keyword density. On the clean version, we delete the head block, we delete the CSS, we delete the JavaScript, we delete the comments, we strip out the HTML, and of the content text that's left over, then we calculate the keyword density. And so you could see how those would produce very different numbers, and they kind of represent the opposite ends of the spectrum. And so whatever you're thinking keyword density is probably lies in between those 2 points. And when most people think about keyword density, they tend to be thinking about something closer to the clean keyword density side of things. So probably what you're thinking of when you say don't exceed 4% is probably something close to what the clean density is. And abridged, Cora tries to give you conservative numbers to work with. We don't want to give you the optimistic ones. We like conservative numbers. And so because of that, Cora won't count 1 and 2 letter words in word count. And that can affect your keyword density because those often add up to be, on a large page, hundreds of extra word count. So if you want to know what the keyword density is with those excluded 1 and 2 letter words, that's the unabridged keyword density. And so that's the explanation, and odds are probably the one you want to use is the clean.
That's actually, so Pop uses the raw when we are calculating things out because making a choice on not wanting to miss anything. The concept there is, what if there's hidden text and Google's liking that hidden text? What if there's, the text within tags and scripts is being considered? So in order to err on the side of just in case, Pop takes the raw rather than a clean or an abridged, just as that was just an optimization choice that we made.
Another thing that people often overlook when they consider this is how do you define a word?
Yeah.
And I noticed that a lot of word count tools have different strategies, and they'll include HTML entities, they'll include alphanumeric strings, they'll include pure numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So also, depending upon how you define what a word is, you can have tools getting different measurements.
That's exactly right. Like if you see a $ in 44.95, that's a price. Is that a word? Is the copyright a word? What about symbols? Those kind of things. So you have to kind of think about all those things when you're deciding on where to go with your word counts.
And the last question is from Miguel. It's on user experience. Assuming that or knowing that Google is using user experience as ranking factors, which types of user experience do you believe that they're measuring, i.e. CTR, time on page, conversions, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, the question is also how are they using it? Because we can empirically see that they're measuring CTR in the source code. Now, how they use it, that's very debatable.
Or if they're
So,
using any of those other things like time on site, or the time on the page, you need to click to another page in the site to get that in the first place. Like if somebody comes and goes, you're not going to get that data. That'd be a lot of data to store too. That's a tough one to think that they're going to store all that data for every page that they've indexed.
well, there's some conspiracy theories that they are, and they would be tallying the traffic to websites via the safe browsing API that's built into Chrome. And that would, in theory, let them know, how many people are visiting your website, whether it came through search or not.
Could be.
Now, we don't know. Again, we know they have the physical ability to measure that. What we don't know is how they actually use that data.
Or any of the data at all. Like all those things exist. You can see a lot of them in Google Analytics, but if are they even being used at all? Is click-through rate being used? Who knows? I've seen a lot of compelling stuff for and against. I've seen a lot of compelling stuff for, and then trying to actually do it or use it becomes pretty hard.
Yeah, emulating CTR is kind of a pain in the ass. Which brings me to that slide that Ted showed with the CTRs. Just as a guess, and assuming why they would change that over from ping to mouse click, is perhaps they're kind of starting to see that user pattern, which we saw. There was another CTR study were showing that actually clicks are moving more and more over to the second page. Which could be driven by having, the featured snippets, the maps, the knowledge panels that people also ask, and the ads pushing organic so far over on the page 2 that now users are just going over to page 2. And I bet you, in my opinion, if I was going to turn that on to collect data, that's what I would be looking at. Where is our traffic going, and what is the results of having all this crap on the search results? So, and with that, that's the last question. I answered everything else personally by typing in the chat. So, yep, that's it, Ted.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining us for this episode. Be sure to sign up for IMG if you haven't already. Did we mention SEO this week at the beginning?
Yep.
We did.
Okay. Sorry, I had network connections then. And be sure to subscribe to SEO This Week. It's an awesome resource, a huge time saver if you like keeping up with all the SEO news. So thanks, everyone.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.